Okay, so on this exam, you have the Microsoft AI principles. Okay, real talk, just for a second. This is like the fourth AI adjacent Azure exam we've done together, and I am tired. I am tired. You know what? Bring on the robot overlords, man. It's coming anyway. All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. I am Wheatstraw. Today, we're going to do the AB730 AI Business Professional exam. It's a little similar to some of the other AI exams we've done in Azure, our Azure certification journey together. Not too bad. It was 44 questions in 45 minutes, or it could have been 45 minutes with 44 questions. I don't know, something like that. But either way, we're going to handle this together. Play the music. You're here. You're ready. 10 minutes with me. We're going to pass this exam together. You're going to come back, tell us how you did, get ready for the next one. You ready? I'm ready. Let's go. All right, y'all, I'm going to talk to you about permissions. Now, this section will get you at least 10 or 15 questions right. Just understand the concepts of what I'm going to talk about here. So think about it. Copilot never bypasses permissions that exist for a user in Azure. So, Copilot's not going to give a user new access that they do not already have. So whatever access a user using Copilot already has for like SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams and Viva and all of those fancy things, the Copilot's never going to, or is not supposed to give access to information beyond what this user would already have access to if they went to those things. So, and how does Copilot do that? Copilot, relies on Microsoft Graph, and the permission boundaries that are enforced around that. So that enforces like user identity, user permissions, conditional access, sensitivity labels, and those data loss prevention policies. All of those things Copilot respects through Microsoft Graph. So it also, so you need MFA, conditional access important. So devices got to be complying. Their location restrictions, PIM, all of that stuff is going to impact, that would normally impact a user and whether or not they had access to certain information. Well, they're not going to be able to type it in, hey, Copilot, give me this, that, and the third thing. And Copilot's just going to give them without the user having gone through all of those checks. So what's the biggest risk in Copilot and the information that it has access to? That's oversharing. So think about it. Lots of people have access to like a SharePoint site that they should not have access to. And if you tell, Copilot to use that as a data source, and it already thinks a user has access, it's going to then provide that user information that they shouldn't necessarily have access to. So how do you protect against that oversharing? You use sensitivity labels, use DLP policies, and those retention policies. So really important section. Remember, policy hygiene is really important for Copilot. So clean up old permissions that people don't need. Least privilege access is really important. You need to be, all these organizations within your tenant need to be talking to each other about who has access to what and whether they still should have access, because that poor permission hygiene will increase the probability that Copilot is going to expose data that it shouldn't already expose. All right, let's go. All right, so for any of you who have been with me for a while, you've heard me talk about these responsible AI principles from Microsoft. If you've watched any of the CRAM videos, especially the AI ones, you've heard me talk about these ad nauseum. And I'm gonna talk about them again. And if your eyes glaze over and you throw up a little bit in your mouth, I totally understand. So you just go ahead and just take a few seconds, to just get your mind right. I'm gonna talk to the other folks, the new folks here, about these AI principles, because you're gonna see, a good 4 or 5 questions based on these, and you want to know them as you're walking into the exam. So remember these. So the first one is fairness. So that's because AI can unintentionally reinforce bias if the data is skewed. So if it takes bad garbage in, garbage out, like one of my professors used to tell me in engineering when I would make a program and it worked, but it gave me crappy answers. So, Microsoft, they need to include, those AI tools need to include safeguards and to reduce those biased outcomes. So second one is reliability and safety. So that, these AI needs to be tested, it needs to be monitored, it needs defined within boundaries. like all output should be validated by humans, and they're really big on that. You want to make sure you're doing that. There's going to be a couple questions on over-reliance, and over-reliance happens when you take an output from AI and just like disseminate it to your organization or just add it somewhere without thinking it through or anything like that. So you really want to stay away from over-reliance. So organizations must use governance to ensure its safe use and all that, have rules around it. The third principle is privacy and safety. So AI systems must protect, they got to protect user data. They're governed and protected by, enterprise level security. They have all sorts of compliance controls, and they, use permissions in Microsoft and don't override those permissions. Inclusiveness is the fourth one. It needs to work for everybody. It can't just work for a certain segment of the population. AI is for everybody. It power everyone, not just the technical users. So anybody should be able to use it, and it should be accessible amongst all roles and all skill levels. The fifth one is transparency. So users should know how it's being used. They should be able to explain the reasoning and limitations of it. AI systems should be able to explain those things, and it needs to provide citations and references and all that to increase the transparency, so you know where it's getting this information. And finally, number 6 is accountability. Organizations have to have oversight of these AIs. They have to have governance frameworks that ensure responsible use, and AI should support, not replace humans. Remember that, Lord, please remember that. AI needs to support, not replace humans. You hear that? You hear that? Support, not replace. Let's go. All right, so let's talk about Copilot Notebooks. Copilot Notebooks, think about it like your own little meeting space, like a group meeting with Copilot, with your M365 Copilot specifically. So it's like a AI-powered workspace in Microsoft 365 where you can, you refine prompts by adding instructions, files, links, meeting notes, and all the context in one place. And so you're refining prompts over and over that you want to be repeatable over time. And you can do that with in collaboration with other members of your team, and documents and things like that are updated dynamically that you put in a notebook. So for example, you give Notebook a permission to access SharePoint. Well, a SharePoint document, and then somebody else makes a change to that SharePoint document. Well, that Notebook will then use the updated Copilot in the Notebook will then use the updated document as opposed to the one that's the old one. And remember that, because that was a question on the test. So it's dynamically updated. So use Notebook when you have a task that requires multiple steps and iterations. You need to provide context and supported materials, and you want to collaborate with others, and you're not looking for a specific one-off answer. So there were several questions on Notebooks. Also remember, you need that M365 Copilot license. They'll ask that. What license do you need? And do you need a license for Notebooks? Yes, you do, because you need to have Notebooks have access to either SharePoint or OneDrive to store and collaborate with those documents that you provide in the notebook. So remember that, Copilot Notebooks. Okay, so there are different kinds of Copilot. So and they're going to ask you about this on the test. I'm going to ask you several different ways. So let's get you, 7 or 8 questions right on this. So there are 3 specific types of Copilot that I'm thinking about. First is Web Copilot. That's the free assistant that you can get in your web browser. You don't need a license. It doesn't have any access to any of your organizational data, and it's used just for general purpose stuff, not like the in-depth stuff. It can do general purpose queries. It can do like a summary. It can help you write something or something like that. The second type of Copilot is the standalone app. You can get that on your mobile. It can be on your desktop. There's some integration with some Microsoft services, but not like the M365. We'll talk about that in a second. So it's basically about personal productivity in any kind of chat-based assistance that you need that you don't have, you're not using the web Copilot for. And finally, the big dog is that Microsoft 365 Copilot app. It's integrated across everything, integrated Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, all the Microsoft 365 services. And you need the license. Remember that, M365 Copilot, you need the license. It has full access to organizational data if you give it access to that data, and also, if you have permission to access that data, then you'll have access access to that data using M365 Copilot. So that's for business workflows. You can generate documents. You can do summaries. You can do data analysis. You can do all the super fancy things with with your M365 Copilot. So those are the three types of Copilots. Remember that. Remember the different capabilities. Only the M365 requires the license, and you want to match what you need with, like what your business requirement is. So there'll be questions about, well, I just need a quick summary of a document, or, help me write this, rewrite this, paragraph or whatever. And that's when you're going to use the web Copilot or something like that. But if you need access to you need something that has access to all of your organizational data through those connectors and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to need the M365 Copilot. So remember that. Also, this is a random question that I got on the exam, which was really weird. What is the URL for the web Copilot? Remember this. That was a direct question, copilot.microsoft.com. Remember that. All right, let's go. All right, y'all. So now we're going to talk about Copilot Pages. So basically, a Copilot page is just a document that that could be created via a Copilot response. So you want to turn a response into a document that you can share, that you can refine, that you can reorganize. You can then use it to share. You can share with others and collaborate with others on the content. Think about it like a Word document rather than a large multi-step structure kind of thing. You can edit it, like I say, share it. You can collaborate on it. But remember, the important thing is it's lightweight. It is not a Copilot notebook. Remember that. So notebooks, and this is how you know a difference between a page and notebooks. Notebooks are very detailed. They have multi-step, like I said, multi-step reasoning. There's no chat interface with a page. So there's a chat interface with a notebook. There is no chat interface with a page. So there is it's not a replacement for Word, but it's kind of just a fast way to generate a document. That's a Copilot page, not a Copilot notebook, which I talk about elsewhere in this CRAM. So remember, Copilot Pages, that'll get you 3 or 4 questions right. Don't forget about me at Wheatstraw Cloud Security and Consulting. Let me come in and help your small business secure your processes that you've already got working in IT, or help you implement some secure features. I can help you with all of that. See the information below, and I will check y'all next time. All right, you're done. You're ready for this AB730. You're going to go in that exam room or sit wherever you are and take this test with this ridiculous proctor who's going to make you wait 30 minutes before they actually call you in and, make you hold the computer around and prove that anyway, you're going to do great. It's going to be awesome. You're going to come back, tell us how you did. Get ready for the next CRAM. Good luck.